Welcome back, everyone. So when you go to Rex Tester and run code, it normally comes up on C# here. What we need to do is we are just going to go to this C lang here. And you can see that this is the what you get when you go to C++. Now a little bit about C++. C++, if there's any kind of programming language you should know, it's C++. The reason is that most of the programming languages that have been made in the last 30 years have been influenced by C++ in some way, shape, or form. Also, there are a ton of systems that use C++, and you might think that it's old and out of date, but there's a lot of systems that are old and out of date that need coding. So it is something that actually is really in demand, and believe it or not, a lot of AAA games are still coded in C++. And if it's not in C++, the engine that you use is a variant of C++. So it is quite useful. And I mean, this was the first programming language I learned a long time ago. And believe it or not, it still comes up, and I still use it from time to time. So it is a very important language here. Now, let's just quickly go over this document before we go ahead and get started. So you'll see that anything in Rex Tester here, you have to essentially keep this the way it is. If you run this in a different environment, you have to quickly assess what is specific to that environment. So for example, if you're doing this, let's say, for a PC, or you're doing this, for a library in a game engine, there's going to be a little bit of variation. For the most part, I'm just going to show you the syntax and what you can do with programming here. So the one thing that is really important is that you see there's this include IO stream here. And what this is that these include statements include different libraries. And these different libraries, what they do is they bring in a certain amount of functionality. So you need this include statement in order to actually run any code. So let's say if you were to make, let's say, an audio streaming application, what you would have to do is include the right library for that functionality. And if you didn't include it, then it won't work. And you're probably thinking, well, maybe we can just include all of the libraries forever. Well, there's two reasons why you shouldn't do that. The first reason is that once you include a library, it does take up a little bit more memory. Not a lot, but a little bit. And the second thing is that depending on the libraries and depending on the environment, they can conflict. When I was making my Xbox game, the libraries would conflict all the time depending what you brought in. So you can only bring in certain libraries in certain situations. In any event, the last thing that we need to do is we have this int main. And what this is that this is the main function of code that we're going to work with. So everything runs through this here. And I should point out at this point in time that when a computer runs code, it reads it line by line. And you can see that there is a namespace, and that is essentially the grand scheme of things here. And this int main is where we run our code here. And you can see that there is a cout statement, which essentially it outputs this text here. So if we go ahead and run that, and you can see it says working, it says hello world, and it's wonderful. All right. So that's a little bit about how this document is set up. Let's talk a little bit more about the functionality in the next tutorial. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.